In Iceland, they have one of the most open cultures towards sexual relations, also towards nudism, which may come as a surprise to people from other countries and cultures. On the other hand, it is also surprising to Icelanders that people of other nationalities feel ashamed to show themselves naked or have sexual relations. Sporadically for Muslims, she is normal to talk about sexuality, and it is done in an open way. Simply in her Islamic culture, relations and Judaism are seen as something natural, and they are not ashamed to express it. Icelandic women have a great influence in Zealand society, and also in Icelandic women's households usually taking initiative and not relying on men. Nowadays, Iceland is known as a destination for exploring impressive landscapes. And there are volcanoes, glaciers, horses, puffin sheep, and in general all nature, which is highly valued by Icelanders. No doubt it is one of the most beautiful and impressive countries. An example that I can show about Iceland's amazing nature is Sekogavos waterfall, surrounded by strong green grass in summer, but covered with snow in winter. It's 25 meters wide and 60 meters high. Legend has it that the first fighting man in the area buried a treasure in a cave which is under the waterfall. But besides Allah in the past, it is also known as Dirty Weekends or Dirty Weekends. Several famous airlines from Iceland contributed to convey the message of sexual freedom. This with messages like "Want a brave weekend," in Zealand a wild night in Ray, and Miss maybe a Muslim. He sees this with humor and doesn't take it seriously for them. A night out having fun with a man or a woman is a very normal thing. A game of a man or a woman chasing people of the opposite sex, or something, maybe only a Muslim. You can imagine the airlines I'm talking about even have a game on their website called Aldor, Lucky in Blue Lagoon. Music, Outdoor is a male name and Hildur is a female name. As you can see, they talk about fun for both sexes in this virtual game. These characters chase the opposite sex around Sugargun, earn points for reaching certain goals. Blue Lagoon is one of the most famous places in Iceland, and also one of the most memorable if you visit this country. It is a spa with an artificial lagoon that keeps warm all year round. You can relax and enjoy a hot bath. While it is very cold outside, Icelandic men are very liberal. Likewise, Icelandic women do not need to attend the first, second, and third meeting to make love. Sometimes, the first thing to do is make love in order to assess if there is chemistry between the other couple. Times after a first date, a woman may be the first to invite a man to her house or apartment. Icelandic women have a lot of initiative. It is very common to see a woman running a family business, while her husband plays a supporting role, and in a work team, they can have equal status or even more responsibility. This is in contrast to many countries around the world, where it is expected of men to take the initiative, and rarely see women in leadership roles. In the United States, Mexico, other European and Asian countries, there are written rules about sexual relations. It is generally expected to have some uniqueness before having a relationship. Sometimes, the number 3 is considered a number magic. If sexual intercourse is considered important in a relationship, it makes sense to go straight to the goal and then get to know each other on dating if there is mutual interest. And this is how it works for some Icelanders. It is rare for someone to first admit to having a relationship and then consume that relationship in a sexual relationship. In short, in Iceland, the sexual connection is first and then firm, but generally not in all cases. And this is viewed positively. No negative views on this. Cultural and customary beliefs have a historical explanation. And the same thing happened with the sexual freedom of Iceland and other Nordic countries in history. Iceland's equality between women and men and openness in sexuality can be traced back to their first inhabitants. Their first inhabitants were Vikings in Governor Amarzone and his wife in 874 during several penances. Since the arrival of the Vikings to Iceland, women stayed home to care for children, becoming hunters, builders, and farmers. Although there were also warrior women who could reach leadership positions, Viking culture had an open attitude towards premarital sexuality. It was common even for a woman to test whether a candidate, her future husband, could satisfy her. If the man was not up to standard, who could decide not to marry her, women could marry from the age of 15, often to a much older man. The family could agree to the marriage, but women had veto rights after marriage. Viking women had many rights, such as the right to get divorced or inherit land. Another reason for divorce is wearing clothes of the opposite sex, being homosexual, or refusing to have sex for a while. At the beginning of the era, fighting relationships outside of marriage was accepted, but later became a crime. If a woman or a man was involved in an extramarital affair, they could be killed. Likewise with their lovers. In Icelandic everything describing settlement in Iceland. During the 10th and 11th centuries, sexual intercourse was frequent. Furthermore, in 1707, smallpox affected a large part of Iceland's population, killing around 12,000 Icelanders, which was equivalent to a quarter of the population. At that time, in 1707, Iceland was part of the Kingdom of Denmark, whose king decided to make it a law that every Icelandic woman must have 6 children. Whether married or not at this time of crisis is not seen as something unjust, violent, or shameful, but as something necessary for the population to survive history. This Icelandic and other cultural influences made dating before sexual intercourse and idealized romantic love not happen in Zealand like in other countries. No dance of seduction, saw it much more direct. Viking women could have premarital relationships to have their husbands. Today, it was similar. Sexual intercourse can occur first to decide whether to deepen a personal relationship. The fact is, dating without connection can be very uncomfortable for Icelanders. The preferred sequence is to meet a guy or a girl at a party bar or app, go to your house or theirs, make a relationship, and decide do you want to continue to see them or not. The signs of equality and independence of Icelandic women is the situation in the university or the parliament. In the university, for every male student, there are about 2 women in parliament. About 50% of the members are women. Regarding the belief in Zealand, it is not believed that only men are always wanting to have sex is accepted and brought up normally that women want it too, and they also know how to insist on what they want. For this and other reasons that I have told you, men from other countries may feel intimidated by the initiative and assertiveness of Icelandic women who, unafraid to ask for what they want, take the initiative and not feel ashamed for having a desire. Therefore, shaming a woman for expressing sexual intent does not exist in Iceland. In fact, it is instead believed that a woman who says what she thinks is a strong woman, capable and comfortable with herself alone. So a woman who has multiple partners is not despised, but accepted as normal. Icelanders don't idealize love and don't really practice romantic love. But that doesn't mean Icelanders don't have emotions. Rather, those emotions appear after sexual intercourse. This priority on relationships rather than love and romance maybe too stems from adaptation to the environment, and priority on survival conditions in Iceland could be harsh. From 879 to 1170, there was a relatively warm phase which aided settlement, but from the late 12th century, it started to cool down with some warm peaks. The coldest months are December, January, and February, with temperatures reaching -3 degrees Celsius in July and August. The warmest months can reach 15 degrees Celsius. The cold this winter is not as extreme as in other countries. It can easily reach -10 degrees Celsius, but severe storms with strong winds can occur and snow. In 934, not long after the first settlement, Iceland had one of the biggest volcanic eruptions in its history. Volcano Elia, spewing lava and gas that crossed Europe and reached China. Both came from places where there were no volcanoes, so they didn't know what is going on. Although it is not clear whether they linked it to a natural phenomenon or provide a mythological explanation, it is currently estimated that there are around 60,000 couples marrying in Zealand out of a population of 370,000 people. Marriages in this country, which could achieve surprising things for you in other countries. Couples meet for some cruel and can have a relationship before or after marriage. After marriage, they have children. But this is not common for Icelanders. Usually they'd first have a sexual relationship, then date or marry, social relations, and then live together and have children if they decide so. After a few years, they start talking about getting married, and if they want to do so. So you get an idea of the extent to which this is applied in relationships. About 70% of children in Zealand are born to parents unmarried. In Iceland, broken families or parents who are really fighting and disconnected, not so common. If you are separated or divorced, it is normal to have a meal together, meet or get along with your ex-partner and their current partner. Therefore, there is no concept of a relationship really ending. Another point that I want to make clear, and it might also be a culture clash for you, is about nudity. In Zealand, naked bathing is not considered a sexual experience. You can do it in hot springs where it is safe and not crowded around. Even if a Muslim were to pass by, they would likely not see it as a scandal. It is a way to connect with nature and accept human nature. Apart from that, bathing naked is a very practical practice. If you are traveling by car, bicycle, or fan without having to carry a few wet clothes, the hot springs you will find throughout the country are the perfect temperature for bathing. But some are too hot, so make sure the temperature before going in completely. Also, Iceland is a country that is geologically young and is constantly developing the land around the natural pools, and it is unstable and has boiling water beneath the surface. Likewise, popular places for swimming such as Landmannalaugar or have a filler may be contaminated with bacteria and should be avoided by pregnant women, children, or people with a weakened immune system. Of course, if you are going to Iceland, don't go to extremes in Icelanders' easygoing attitude towards nudity. Don't walk naked in Reykjavik Center or in geothermal spa. If anyone is around, as long as you don't offend anyone, it's legal, but swimwear is mandatory in public pools. Even though it's just the bottom, women are not legally obligated to wearing this big top, and men are also not required to wear a t-shirt. But the places where you will see nudity more often are in spa showers or public swimming pools. Although keep in mind, there is an unwritten rule of not looking at intimate parts if you feel like it. Know you are called. And now you know more about Icelandic women and the cultural customs of both sexes. You may want to know more about the way people in this country know each other. Because Iceland's population is relatively low, there is a system for knowing if two people are attracted to each other. Having children or having a relationship, having similar offspring in this way, is avoided that future children have problems due to genetic diseases. Sitting in a restaurant or cafe is not common Islam. It is a small country, and doing this carries a high risk of someone you know seeing you. More likely to go to places far from town, where the chances of running into someone you know are slim. If decide to meet and get to know each other, generally have a few drinks to overcome shyness, and then head home. Even if it doesn't have to end in a relationship, people usually meet through apps or social media, talk virtually, and then meet. They can also meet at bars, work, gyms, or universities. The other point is that there is no cultural rule that requires a man to ask a woman if she wants to go to her house. A woman, like I have explained before, have the initiative and usually ask about paying at the bar. Same thing applies. Women also pay their share or can decide to pay the whole bill. Iceland is one of the best places in the world to be. Women, almost 90% women, work apart from the majority of women in universities, like which I explained earlier. This is also seen in fictitious politics. Being considered the first woman to be elected president in a democratic country, served as president of Iceland from 190 to 1996. Gender equality, originating from the fighting era, also exists in the current law. In 1850, Iceland be the first country in the world to give inheritance rights to women, equaling them to men. Since 2021, couples with children have paid leave to be absent from work for 12 months. Each parent can be absent for 6 months with 80% of income if they have a full-time job. If you go to Iceland and want to know more about this country, visit another video, and we have it on sale. This is about this amazing country. But keep in mind a few things. Yes, this country has positive views on sexuality and nudity, but Icelanders don't want their country to be seen as a place to have sexual fun. Even doing this is not a smart idea, especially if you have short time. It is advisable to travel around the country to explore its natural beauty. Icelandic people, both women and men, tend to be quiet in public places and do not talk to strangers. It is true that Icelandic women are assertive, but that does not mean that anyone who comes to this country will have dozens of women chasing him, or it will be very easy to go to their apartment. Unless you are very attractive, chances are you can very little go to a bar, invite a girl, and conquer her. Even talking to strangers is considered strange and uncomfortable unless it is late at night and alcohol has given the effect. In this case, it is more tolerable to talk to foreigners, but respect is expected when interacting. But if you spend enough time in Iceland and get along with the local customs of working with Icelanders and interacting with them, it is different. In this way, you will get to know how is nature, women, their independence, the decisions they make, and that they are not afraid to talk about their sexuality or what they want. Visit this video about Iceland to find out how this is one of the most unique countries on the planet. Leave a comment if you feel more positive about this take on personal relationship or prefer views from your country. Share it with family and friends if you liked it, and subscribe with the bell to see more videos like this.